Mandatory, yes, sir.
Nice.
Although I'm arguing with travel right now if they're gonna. Well,
Ah,
I'm skipping the opening whatever cocktail hour or whatever bullshit that is because it's my daughter's first day of school. But the travel guy is like,
Uh,
"You need your VP approval." I'm like, "Sure, I'll bug my vice president of sales in the fourth quarter that I can like make a judgment call on cocktail hour."
Hello, my friends.
Thank you for joining us for the PEBCAK Podcast, a weekly information security show featuring some all-around good people. It is week 25 of 2025. I'm Chris Louie, and can't believe we are halfway through the year already. With me, we do not have the Cloud God as he is taking some well-deserved time off. And we do not have Glenn this week either. For those of you who know Brian and Glenn, be sure to send some love their way. Our first guest co-host this week is the returning Rob Chi. Rob works in the public sector of our business and is our resident public policy expert, so welcome back to the show, Rob.
Thanks, Chris.
And we also have another guest host this week, the returning Jason Seaman. I think I can confidently say that Jason is the tallest person we've ever had on the podcast, so welcome back.
Well, thanks for having me. I feel like Zoom is the great equalizer, and if I may pay, if I may pay a compliment to the host, I do really admire how you put this thing out like every week. The dedication and stuff that you do to it, it's really cool. So, thank you for having me back as well.
Yeah, thank you. It's nice to get some appreciation from our guest co-host, since I never get any from my regular co-host.
No.
Just kidding.
Exactly.
You show me plenty of love. Combined, we have decades of information security experience here, not just to educate, but to entertain. We've got 3 awesome stories for this week, so sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. This week, we're going to talk about Iran, Roblox terrorism, and close with wedding talk. For our first topic, I predict this one will be a lengthy one, so it'll take up the time for 2 of our normal segments. Unless you have literally been living under a rock for the past 2 weeks, you should know that there's a deepening conflict with Iran and the Western world. Israel launched preemptive strikes targeting Iran's military leadership, as well as their first response weapons. That was followed up by the U.S. bombing strikes on 3 key nuclear facilities in Iran, and depending on who you believe, may or may not have completely decimated their nuclear program. Now, we are an information security podcast, not a geopolitical podcast, so there are some cybersecurity tie-ins with this. And the first story we're going to cover with this Iran conflict is Bank SEPA, one of the largest banks in Iran. They were hacked. They were taken offline. Supposedly, they completely wiped their systems. They destroyed all their backups. The ATMs didn't work. They had to close their physical branches. And in general, this was not a good time for that to happen. So it's no coincidence that this happened around the timing of the strikes. And I personally believe this was to help turn the tide of public opinion against the Iranian leadership, saying they can't even get access to their money, they can't protect their financial system, and that this was one of the opening salvos in the cyber war.
I think that's an interesting point. One of the things that I've been thinking about in this, it's not new world anymore, but this idea of collateral damage, right? Like this bank ostensibly did nothing wrong, right? It's just a business, like in the business of doing banking stuff. And, whether it's the reason that you described to like sow dissidence or whether it's just like a random thing, it kind of makes you think about, even the US being involved in this. Now you can just be a random US business and also be targeted not only by nation state actors, right? Whether it's Iran or someone trying to get back, but this idea of hacktivism is very interesting as well, right? Yeah, right. Like all of a sudden you're just sit here doing business, and in the old world, like that was less of a risk, right? There was a big ocean between us. You weren't going to catch a stray bomb. So now you're catching strays out here, and that's a pretty tough game.
Yeah, I'm wondering about like when you see like Israel doing this to Iran, what's Iran's next step? What bank are they going to try to attack? Although it does really seem like Israel is much more sophisticated from a cyber warfare or cyber security attack perspective, but Iran definitely has a capability as well. So how is this going to escalate?
It's that Iran directly attacking Israel. It's also Iran attacking adjacencies, I guess. I read a story even right before we came on where Iran attacked some facility in Saudi Arabia. And for those of you that don't know, Iran and Saudi Arabia are not friends. They do not get along. But since everyone seems to be picking on Iran, Iran seems to be firing back at just basically anybody. So they're picking on Saudi Arabia. They're picking on Israel, and I'm sure they're looking at U.S. targets to attack as well.
Yeah, I wonder if there's like is World War III, so to speak. I think a lot of people have been like a little afraid of that. Hopefully, nothing more materializes in the physical world. But honestly, you can kind of see how this cyber warfare can grow with, like we were talking about, the different groups. Like people can be fighting that aren't even Iranian, that don't even like really like have any connection to the government. But all of a sudden, these people start causing problems, and then other people retaliate against who they think it is. So you can imagine like a big scenario where no one knows exactly who's doing what, and it just keeps escalating, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And then it's like there's also the concept of the sleeper cells that are in the U.S., maybe Iranian sleeper cells. I was watching some news broadcast about that, and they're like kind of downplaying that. Not saying it doesn't exist, but downplaying. But I can see that as being really dangerous because it seems to be an attack from U.S. soil on U.S. assets, providing even more confusion.
They don't even have to be Iranian or smuggle in from Iran. They could just be sympathizers as well. We'll probably get to it in topic 2, where we talk about an inspired lone wolf attack. Maybe not directly to Iran, but that is definitely a risk too, if you can radicalize the local populace. And there probably is a piece of the campaign, the digital warfare campaign, of turning the Iranian people against the government, because I can't remember when the last presidential election was. Maybe it was 4 years ago or so, and we thought that there might be a populist uprising because they were very unhappy with the results. But Iran being Iran, they put down the dissidents, and we are here where we are. And maybe we're hoping that this becomes the tipping point, or I say the collective we, as in the Western world, not wanting to see the current leadership stay in power.
It's interesting to me that this is, as you said, not a geopolitical podcast, but a cyber one. But it's interesting how intertwined it is. Like you literally almost can't talk about cybersecurity through this lens without immediately getting back into the geopolitics of everything, because, this cyber world has ostensibly become our lives at this point, right?
Yeah. The other interesting thing is we saw this exactly with Ukraine and Russia. Same thing, geopolitical conflict, but lots of cyber intertwined with that. With Iran, we didn't really see that many cyber intrusions as a precursor to war. Not like we saw in Ukraine, where they were like hacking into Viasat and disrupting satellite communications. Because I guess that's what you do before you invade a country. Number one, you disrupt their communications. Number two, maybe mess with their money. That's sort of the recipe for invasion. But we didn't see that. But I don't know if it's like Iran doesn't have mature telecommunication capabilities, that they have all these communication satellites, or if the first strike that Israel did, the sneak attack, was enough.
Yeah, it really does seem like Israel was on the offensive first, and Iran's kind of like just not caught off guard, but didn't have a ready response from a cyber attack perspective.
Yeah, their
I think
incident
that's right.
response was a little lacking.
I think they made a really interesting decision, and this was in one of the articles that you had linked, Chris, was like at some point they shut down their internet, right? Like Iran did it as like I think they were doing, of course, who knows, right? But it seemed that they were doing it to kind of protect themselves to some extent. And in my mind, a bit of an own goal, number one, you've probably pissed off some of your population. And number two, now you're driving them to services like Starlink, which are like directly funding, basically opposition forces and giving your people free access to information. So that strategy that they had, whatever it was, to shut down their internet in response to some of the cyber attacks from Israel, maybe backfiring a little bit on them.
And that was their solution. They hit the big red button. They cut themselves off from the world's internet. And I guess for censorship reasons, for perception reasons, but also for, like you said, cyber intrusion reasons. So they think if Israel can't reach their servers, or their infected machines can't reach out to the command and control servers, then maybe they have some level of protection. But at the same time, they're just cut off from the outside world too. So you kind of shot yourself in the foot on that one. There's another story, a financially related story. So NoBitX is one of the largest cryptocurrency exchanges in Iran. Hackers believed to be aligned with Israel stole $90 million worth of cryptocurrency, and they actually burned the token. So they stole Bitcoin, Ethereum, a bunch of other cryptocurrencies, and they sent it. I don't know how they know this, so Chainalysis did the analysis, but they sent it to a wallet that doesn't have a private key, so there's no way to access that money now. So they literally burned the money. And just what comes to mind is that scene from Dark Knight where the Joker is like burning that giant pile of money, and the criminal's like, "Why are you burning it? Why are you burning it?" And then like, it's not about the money; it's about sending a message, and it's true. Like this Israel-aligned group could have stolen the money, I don't know, dispersed it for aid relief or something, but no, they decided to literally burn the money, and the rationale behind that was this cryptocurrency exchange is allegedly, so these are allegations, allegedly they're being used for sanctions evasion because Iran is heavily sanctioned from most of the world, and they are using cryptocurrency to directly fund terrorism. So groups like Hamas, Hezbollah, they receive funding in the form of cryptocurrency. So there's kind of this dual purpose of stealing the money and then burning it, not just stealing it, but completely obliterating it.
Drop that.
It's interesting. I feel like, first of all, Chris, you're not sponsored by any cryptocurrency exchange, are you? Because what I'm about to say may get you blacklisted. But I mean, let's be honest. Cryptocurrency, at least in some percentage or another, has always been used to fund, illegal exploits, right? It's been sort of the thing. So it's kind of funny that they would take exception to this crypto exchange, whereas all the other crypto exchanges are, of course, totally noble and like just facilitating people buying Starbucks or whatever, right? So, but I am sad they burned it. Like, I think that's a little bit silly thing to do. Like, you could have used that money for any number of things that would have been a better purpose, I think.
Yeah. Did they say they're going? No, Novitex is like they said they like froze they put it in a cold storage or something like that, and like they were able to recover them later. But I guess we'll wait and see if that's a reality.
They said most of their money, and this is always the company line. Whenever somebody gets hacked, the company line is always the majority of our money's in cold storage. Your money is safe. This was part of our operating money, and we have more than enough to cover it. So to their credit, they did say they'll cover all losses. They have reserves, they have insurance to protect themselves from this, and that's always the company line whenever this happens. So that 90 million for sure is gone, but they said we have enough in reserves to cover everybody.
Okay.
But it is interesting that this is one of the avenues for sanctions evasion. And I do remember there's a story about some guy, I can't remember. He visited North Korea specifically to give a lecture on how to evade sanctions using cryptocurrency. So it is a medium of some level of sanctions evasion. But I guess the same thing can be said about a pallet full of cash, right? That's sanctions evasion as well. It's just cutting them off from the traditional banking system, and you have to use alternative methods. I was gonna say lots of movie references that I like to make, but the other reference was that movie Nobody with Bob Odenkirk, Better Call Saul guy. And the premise of that movie is he doesn't steal the Russian mob's retirement fund; he completely destroys it. And same thing with the Joker. He's like, it's not about the money; it's about sending a message. So that just has echoes of this. Have you seen that one, Jason? Nobody.
Mm-mm,
They're about to come out with the sequel.
Oh,
are they?
Really?
Oh, I want to see that.
Yeah, I highly recommend it. That to me was a very good movie. If you like the John Wick style type movies, you'll definitely enjoy Nobody. And it's Better Call Saul, so I like him as an actor.
I think it was like Mr. Nobody, though, right? Wasn't it like Mr. Nobody?
Yeah, it might have been Mr. Nobody. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, I like it. That sounds like a good film.
Add that one to your list. And then the last item I have here tied in with cybersecurity is that the Iranian government has ordered their officials to ditch all their connected devices, so smartphones and internet connected devices, laptops, anything that can be used to trace them. And this is reminiscent about the pager attack with Hezbollah, where they said, first they used cell phones and they droned everybody that had cell phones. Then they used pagers, then they exploded everyone's pagers. Then they went to two-way radios, then the two-way radios started exploding. So it's like you got to go back to pen and paper, letter carriers, carrier pigeon, telegraph. Like people throw that term around. We're going to bomb them back to the Stone Ages, and it seems to have happened. We have bombed them back to the Stone Ages, where they're using traditional communication methods, not electronic anymore, and that's it. We just targeted them, and our intelligence is so good that that at least Israel found where all of their senior leadership, down to like the bedroom. Like, have you guys seen there's a photo in one of the news outlets that there's a very neat cut hole in the side of a building and one room that's been exploded. Like, they know exactly which bedroom, and their munitions were that precise that they took out this one person in this one bedroom. Like, that's how good their targeting has been.
That's amazing. And you're saying this is all from basically tracking their iPhone or their Android or something like that? Like, that's the way they're kind of pinpointing this, Chris?
Potentially, yeah. And that's the guidance from top Iranian officials: ditch your connected devices. And they're telling even the populace, stop using WhatsApp, stop using Instagram, stop using any kind of Western developed application, which was surprising to me that they even allow that stuff in Iran, that everything's not homegrown or, Red Star Linux or something. But they also said, stop using these Western aligned applications, because who knows that the US could be using that to target people too.
Yeah, that exploding pager thing was like crazy. I was expecting when I saw the beginning of that story, I'm like, oh, well, they're gonna like be exploding something with the battery and overheat the battery and get it to explode. But they actually put like small explosives inside the pagers and then detonated them somehow.
Yeah.
That's
they were
pretty
all
sneaky.
waiting for a specific signal to come, and they all exploded at the exact same. I mean, not the exact same time, but within like minutes of each other, because once word got out, everyone's going to ditch their pagers. So it had to be, simultaneous attack.
Yeah, and that's going to like, yeah, go ahead.
I was just going to say, like, there's like a propaganda element to this too, to some degree. Like, Chris, you were saying like, hey, it's interesting that they don't block maybe like WhatsApp or something like that. But if they make their citizens believe that WhatsApp is a mechanism by which they're going to be tracked and killed, then it's like a soft block, right? Like, you've put out that word and people are like self-denying themselves these things. Because I don't know. I don't understand the technology well enough, and I definitely don't understand like all the possible measures and countermeasures that could be taken. But I mean, I don't know. They still seem to let our president have a phone, and we still operate with like all these things. So I don't know. I don't know if we'll ever know the full extent to which the phone makes you a vulnerable target and how it can be tracked and so forth.
It definitely is good.
Yeah, it's pretty accurate.
Information. Yeah, they said
targeting my kids at least. I mean, I can get my kids with like 360.
Yeah, exactly. It's like a homing beacon, right? And you can tell, you can pinpoint to exactly which house they're in. And this might actually get into the topic 3, which is the wedding story. But not to out anybody, but somebody within our circle was having an extramarital affair. And the husband put an iPad in the trunk of the wife's car and was able to track her to the exact house she was going to. And then based on that, got the address, did typical OSINT, see, and then found out it was a coworker. And not the best approach, I would say, but that's all it took was an iPad with a SIM card, which nowadays, this was like 10 years ago. Nowadays, all you need is like a $20 AirTag. Just pop it in the wheel well or something. And, it's game over. You can find out exactly where somebody is.
Yeah, I just wonder though, like, I can't remember if it was on your pod, Chris, or somewhere else I was reading it, but they're talking about all, the burner phones ostensibly, right? And there's like a huge industry around making all of these kind of hyper secure devices. And certainly if I'm aware of it, like the top Iranian officials must be aware of it as well. So it's interesting to me to some extent that even with that technology, which I'm sure they were using, they're still saying even that is like too exposed and we have to get rid of all that stuff.
Yeah, selling I don't remember the name, but there are several cell phone services that marketed themselves towards criminals, where it was like, yeah, it was a burner phone. And I specifically remember there's one service where I don't know if you guys are old enough yet, but there are these like vitamin trays or medicine trays for each day of the week. You put your pills in for each day of the week. They would put a SIM card in each day of the week, and you would swap the SIM card out every day, and your cohorts would have the same set. So if I say call Jason and it's Wednesday, I call Jason's SIM card that he's supposed to put in his phone on Wednesday. So that there's just another layer of obfuscation there. But yeah, I guess even something as like that might not be enough for, and we don't know what kind of targeting capabilities our intelligence services has, but anything that we do know that anything that's internet connected is trackable. You have to ping a cell tower, you have to ping 2 cell towers, you have to ping 3. If you ping 3 cell towers, we have your precise location.
So what would you do, Chris, if you had to like avoid detection? Would you go as Stone Age as they've gone here, or is there some other solution?
Yeah, I mean, that's how Bin Laden hid for decades. He used a letter carrier, right? I forgot. I read the book too long ago. I forgot exactly how we found him. Like, there was an informant that saw him, and they phoned it in, and we got satellite photos that said this is likely him. But yeah, he did letter carrier. I mean, he had a laptop, but it was not internet connected, and that's how he stayed under the radar for so long. You do have to go low tech.
Yeah, I guess you could turn off the GPS and do things like that, but I mean, it's difficult. Or like, yeah, get a super old phone, like those clamshell phones from back in the day. Yeah,
yeah, I mean, even without GPS, you still have triangulation. You still have to ping a cell tower at some point, or God forbid you hit a Wi-Fi access point, and then your IP address, the ISP, they can trace you. I don't know. I don't know how satellite works. Like if it's a Starlink or if it's a sat phone, if they can track you that way or not.
That's a very interesting point. One of the things that was mentioned in the article was surprising to me was like, I think they said the number was like 30,000 Starlink endpoints in Iran alone. Like that was an astronomical number. Like I had no idea Starlink was so pervasive.
And yeah, and I don't even think that's like legally owned either. I think they had to have been smuggled in, because Iran doesn't want free access to the internet, just like North Korea or China. They don't want free access to the internet. They want filtered access. And yeah, so that's I don't know how they got 30,000 units in.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's crazy.
But it does kind of prove the point too that they can, to some degree, triangulate where the receivers are in this whole operation. Because of course they're senders too, right?
Yeah.
They have to be.
Yeah, and I'm sure the terminals have a unique identifier, and that's how they know if you paid or you didn't pay, and they can trace that. So, yeah, I don't know how that would be. I would have thought the pager thing would have been good, because that is one way and it's asynchronous. But I mean, they got hit in a different way. They just sabotaged the pagers. They didn't find. I don't know how pagers work. I think pagers will know which tower it came from, but I don't think it gives precise location like a cell phone.
I thought that was the most wanted.
Yeah.
And that's step one of any type of military operation: disrupt communications. And if you don't have cell phones and you don't have internet, you have to go back to old school techniques, then that just degrades their capabilities even further.
Let this trash dude kill me, bro. Fuck, I was set, dude.
Well, this will be an interesting one. I'm very interested to see where this one goes, if Iran capitulates, or if they're just gonna keep going and use conventional warfare, or even cyber warfare. Like Rob said, Iran has a pretty sophisticated hacking apparatus that the IRGC, the Revolutionary Guard Corps, has a hacking unit, and they can do a lot of damage. And with all things cyber, it's very asymmetrical. 14 people behind a computer can do immense amounts of damage to infrastructure if it's not properly secured.
Yeah, that's where I'm thinking, like, even outside of Iran, like I think we talked about it before, like the copycat or people that just trying to create chaos and just using this as an excuse to be able to attack people, and then put it under the guise of like supporting Iran. But I wonder how much of that is going to actually occur. Like, where it's not state sponsored, but it's just like outside people.
Like, yeah, state adjacent.
One thing I'm wondering about too, and this is maybe a question for both you guys as more security-brained persons, but like, okay, let's say you're a business that is adjacent to this in one way or another, right? Like that bank or whatever the case was. And you know you're in the crosshairs, so to speak. What is it that you're supposed to be doing to like be more vigilant, right? Like presumably you have security defenses. How do you become more vigilant in these times?
Just be ready, be on alert, have a plan. Like,
Yeah, I think that's the
if
big
you-
thing. You have a plan.
yeah, it and similar to, you know, I would say like an impending zombie apocalypse. Like, you know, the zombies are coming. What are you gonna do? You're gonna put sandbags out. You're gonna put, you're gonna oil your gun. Make sure you have enough ammo stocked. You're gonna prepare your defenses. And I think the cyber equivalent of that is, I guess, fine-tuning your alerts to say that, well, this is odd. So if it's not a normal day and you see something odd, it's like, okay, well, maybe I'll look into that later. But if it's like, if you're at a heightened sense of awareness and something odd happens, like, you should 100% focus on that and see, because you're expecting something to happen. And you just can't dismiss something as odd. You can't blame it on cosmic rays. Like, you got to figure out what happened.
Yeah, you got to practice that too. You can't just plan it. You'd have to have exercises to be able to say, if this happens, this is what we do, and practice what that actual plan is going to be.
Exactly. Like, make sure you have offline backups. Make sure you've tried attempting to restore those offline backups. Make sure there's no way that those offline backups could be accessed from your production systems. And yes, who knows? Somebody connected a Cat5 cable from the offline backups to the production network. You don't know if somebody did that or not until it happens.
So it's kind of like go through an audit almost of like, hey, we've got all these policies. As you guys know, right? Most cyber in some ways devolves into writing a bunch of policies and procedures that everyone's supposed to be following. But in these times, maybe it's important to like kind of revisit all those and make sure that they're doing them, which I think would include not only, the technical examples that you mentioned, but probably also like, hey guys, be on higher alert for phishing campaigns, for example. Like, people are going to be targeting us more, like making your non-cyber employees connect the dots. Because I don't think it's obvious that just because Iran and Israel are in a conflict, that a US company could somehow be targeted because of this, right?
Right. Yeah, and we had Ben Coral on. He's one of our CISOs here, and he made the point when we were talking about cyber practices. He says sometimes the person with the most access is the custodian. Do you have a trash can in a secure area? Like, should you really vet that custodian? They kind of try and do something nefarious. Who knows? That, like, it'll encourage you to take a hard look at everything and not just be complacent, I think is probably the takeaway there.
Okay.
Good question, though. I'm sure that's the question a lot of companies are struggling with right now in terms of what's the fallout of this going to be.
Mm-hmm. For sure.
For our second topic, somewhat in a tie with our last story with the lone wolf sleeper cells, it's been reported that a Texas man named James Berger was planning an Islamic State-style terrorist attack on a Christian music festival and then bragging about it on the popular video game platform Roblox. The feds caught Berger after another Roblox user overheard his conversations about martyrdom and murder and tipped them off. A search of his phone revealed internet searches for phrases like "Ginger ISIS member," "Festivals happening near me," and "Are suicide attacks haram in Islam?" When authorities searched his iPhone, they discovered 2 notes on the phone that described how to avoid leaving behind DNA and fingerprints at a crime scene, and a third note appeared to be a note explaining the attack, meant for it to be read after the attack occurred. Apparently, a family member was also concerned about Berger's behavior, as a keylogger was found on the computer he used to play Roblox, and those keylogger logs also detail the terrorist acts he would have wanted to commit. So, needless to say, we caught this guy, and we hope that he stays in jail for a very long time.
Yeah, I think I have a daughter, and she's kind of grown up in the Roblox era. And my initial naive capitalist point of view on Roblox was like, surely they must do a lot of content filtering and policing because this is fundamentally a platform for very young kids to communicate with one another.
Yeah.
And they want to keep, they want to stay out of the headlines like this. Like, I'm sure they're not happy to learn that people are basically communicating about terrorists. Like, as a parent, that makes me say, like, maybe my daughter should spend less time and money on Roblox, right?
Yeah.
And it's almost amazing to me
Good guy over here.
how the platform is not policed. Like, it's shocking.
Yeah, and it's not just Roblox, but I mean every platform suffers from this. Xbox Live, PSN, the PlayStation Network, Steam, Counter-Strike. Like, I remember there were stories of drug dealers. They says meet me in the game, on the PlayStation game. And one of the pieces of evidence that they entered in the court record for this particular prosecution for the guy using PlayStation Network was this guy had like 50 hours in the game and he was still level 1. So obviously he was not playing the game. So there's only one way that happens, and you just log in, you use the chat method, and you never play the game. So yeah, kind of a dead giveaway there.
Yeah, I don't understand what this guy was doing, just like talking about what he was going to do. And it sounded like an open forum because somebody just overheard what he was saying. So he wasn't even trying to be secretive or anything like that. So I was like, something was wrong with him.
Yeah, that it's part of what we talk about on the podcast. He has the mental capacity to plan such an attack, but he does not have the mental capacity to know that if you brag about this in a public forum, you're very likely to get caught. Like, someone is going to talk. Someone is not going to agree with this and turn you in. So it's one of those things, like maybe he didn't receive proper training from the Islamic State that says just shut your mouth and just do it. But who knows? Who knows what's going through this guy's head? Maybe
he's like one of those guys, who like pretends like they want to get in a fight, but then he's like, hold me back, bro, hold me back. He knew the whole time, man. He knew the whole time.
That's really what it feels like to me. It's just like, I'm not going to do this, but I really want to talk about it.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's ultimately what he was charged with. He was charged with making terroristic threats. Like, he didn't do anything. It's sort of like that pre-crime thing. It's like if you see a guy with a mask holding a machine gun, wearing body armor outside of a bank, but he never steps into the bank. Well, he didn't really rob the bank, but you could tell what he was about to do. And you can't charge him with robbing a bank because he never stepped foot in the bank. But yeah, I guess that's the best they can do, is making terroristic threats. And I don't know what the penalty is for that, but it's probably better this guy's not mixed in with the general public at this point.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But like that lone wolf kind of person that maybe it is somebody that is able to hide what they're actually going to do and actually has the necessary skills to be able to pull off an attack. That's scary because that could actually happen.
Yes. Yeah. That is. And that's the hardest to defend against. Like, if you have a cell, like you could potentially infiltrate that, or they have to communicate, and that's where you could pick up some signals intelligence. But if it's just one person, it's a lot harder to find that. Other than if you brag about it on a public game, then all bets are off.
For sure.
Yeah, but I also wonder, like, how many times does a platform like this, like, do they get sued? Actually, no. There actually is precedence to this. I was just thinking of, is Roblox responsible? Well, no, because he used it as a medium. Just the whole Section 230 exemptions from it, and the Supreme Court case actually was YouTube. Somebody sued YouTube because YouTube allowed a video from Islamic State to be posted. Somebody was radicalized by this video, and they committed a terrorist act because of this. Then the family of the victim sued YouTube, and YouTube's like, no, Section 230, we're just the medium. We have nothing to do with it. And then the Supreme Court sided with them. So I think Roblox isn't clear on this one. They just use it as a medium, but good on them. At least the right people reported it. But,
yeah, and the Roblox, they shared all the information that they had on the guy, right? His IP address and his login name.
His IP, exactly. So they were able to find exactly who this person was Didn't use a VPN, didn't try to hide. Again, not following the ISIS playbook apparently. He's not hiding his identity at all. But I guess the other point, what Jason said was moderation, like content moderation. Like I know when I played, so I used to play World of Warcraft, and it did have like an explicit language filter. So if somebody said a bad word, it would just put asterisks over it. Mm-hmm. They clearly have a filter for certain words. So you would think that they would also, like Roblox would have a word for like kill, murder, terrorist, martyrdom, things like that. That should flag in the system that says maybe we should take a look at this. And of course, these are kids playing, and kids will do trash talk and everything. But it's like we're at the point where we have AI. We could build an AI model that says, well, this person seems pretty serious. This is not just kids acting like kids. This guy seems motivated to do harm. And any off-the-shelf AI model should be able to figure that out. So why aren't they doing better moderation here?
Chris, I think this is the first good use of AI that I've heard, actually. Like, I love your idea. Like, it's such a problem, right? Content moderation is a big challenge. And I think, like, having the mothership, like, look for something like this and parse out what I'm sure would be, billions of lines of chat logs, and be able to find this kind of stuff and ferret it out. I mean, that'd be huge. Like, I'd feel better about my daughter playing Roblox, honestly, if I knew, like, hey, yeah, we do contextualize this stuff. Because today, I can tell you that it's basically a reporting system. Like, you can report anyone, and it will go up to some human moderator who may or may not make a decision that this was, like, bad behavior. And it's not just terrorist stuff. It's all kinds of different abuses and bullying and this, that, and the other thing. So, yeah, I would love to see an LLM summarize all this and root out the really bad people out of there.
Yeah, I can't remember if it was a company I saw at RSA or if I just heard about it, but I think there is some startup company out there that will like parse your internal company chats and look for red flags of potential workplace violence or things like bullying within the workplace. And I think that's exactly it. They plug it into some model that they have, or, this will be useful in school systems as well for things like self-harm and bullying and the like. That this is a good use of AI to be able to contextualize this and seeing, are people teaming up and bullying this one person and then raising it up to the appropriate authorities.
Yeah, I like that vision of like the AI is like a sort of loving, protective mother, like trying to find bad stuff rather than this like Terminator, like apocalypse view, right? Like it's helping us all get along.
Skynet coming.
Yeah. Why does it have to be that? It can be LoveNet, man. Let's do it.
Yeah, exactly. All right, LoveNet, patent pending. All right, for our last topic, and it'll be a rotating topic every week. This week we're going to talk about Jeff Bezos' impending wedding. Jeff Bezos and Lauren Sanchez are getting married sometime this week. And, unfortunately, I had to decline their invitation because I just had to be here to record the podcast. The wedding is taking place in Venice, Italy, and the residents are mad. Just got me thinking, what are some extravagant things you might have seen at some weddings you attended, or any funny wedding stories you might have? And I guess I can go first. And while you guys think about it, and I remember reading a study that said something like there is a correlation, but I would say an inverse correlation between how much money is spent on a wedding and the length that marriage lasts. Like the more you spend on the wedding, the shorter the marriage lasts. I have two examples of that. One was a very, very extravagant wedding. They had butterflies released after when the bride and groom were coming down the aisle. It was at a very nice vineyard and spent a lot of money, and that marriage lasted a year. And who could have seen that coming? But on the flip side, also there's another very extravagant wedding that I attended, and in Indian culture, the wedding lasts like at least 3 days, sometimes it lasts a week. So it was very extravagant, but they're still married today, and they have 3 kids together. So I'm very happy to see that. So it works both ways, but I've seen some very extravagant things. I've seen some people have their wedding in their parents' backyard, and that's what they wanted, and they love each other, and that's all they need. So I've seen the whole spectrum of that.
I think by your metric, then the Bezos wedding is going to last what, like 3 seconds or something? Like, you're gonna immediately annul the thing or something because it was too expensive. But
Yeah.
no, I do. Couple things. Number one, I've been to some very nice Indian weddings. I've actually really enjoyed, particularly during the ceremony parts. You're just allowed to like talk, get up, leave, walk around. Like it's this ongoing thing that's like kind of cool. You don't just have to like sit there and be quiet and watch the whole thing. And I thought that was like really a nice different culture,
It's like,
right?
yeah, they have community participation. I remember learning I forget what it's called, but there's like a stick dance that I had to learn, and all the people that attended got these sticks and they showed you how to do the dance. And yeah, I like, the audience participation there.
Fanciness wise, our idea of fancy, actually a lot of people commented this at our wedding, my wife and I. We had mashed potatoes that were served in a martini glass. And I don't know why that captured the imagination of so many people. They were like, I loved that mashed potato bar. You got it in a martini glass. You got to pick your own toppings. It was so cool, man. So anyways, we've been together for a lot of years. So I guess that's working out.
That is a good idea, though. Because you get the potato on the bottom, and then you could add more and more of the toppings.
The toppings on the top.
Yeah, it's like ice cream, but
it goes out. Yeah.
Yeah. Everyone's at an ice cream bar. Everyone's at a candy bar. I can confidently say I've never had a mashed potato bar or eaten it out of a martini glass.
That is the best piece of advice I've heard from in a long time. I'm gonna try that. Mashed potatoes. I went to like a Laotian wedding, and that was really interesting because they give you this string, and then you're supposed to tie it around the wrist of the bride and the groom, and they're sitting in the middle, kind of like in the ceremony style. So everyone kind of walks around, and in this wedding, it was like hundreds of people. So they have these strings. The first string, the second string, the 50th string is like not that big of a deal, but it gets pretty heavy after a while. So at the end, they had this like their both arms are just like weighed down by all these strings.
500 pieces of string.
Yeah. But it was the same kind of thing. While this was all going on, there were like people were just talking and stuff like that. So it was interesting.
That's nice. In my head, I pictured it kind of surreptitiously, like, if you tie someone's shoelaces together under the desk so they fall. I thought you were saying they had to go and like secretly connect these two people. Long handshake, tying the whole thing to them or whatever. That's a cool tradition. I like that one.
And I think it might be Filipino weddings. They do a money dance where the bride is in her dress, and then you basically give a tribute. You pay money, and you take a safety pin. You pin like a $20 bill or $100 bill, and then you pin it onto the bride. Then you get to have a dance with the bride. It's called the money dance. I thought that was interesting. I've seen that more than once, and yeah, I thought that was interesting. And it's it's nice. Give a gift, and then you get to dance with the bride for a bit.
I like that.
It's funny when kids do it. It's always cute when kids do that.
Man, I wouldn't let a kid with a needle coming next to me. I just hand it over. I'll dance with it.
Yeah, and then at the end, it's just the bride, like just covered in dollar bills.
That's cool.
My only other thing is like I've been to 2 like outdoor weddings. One at like a farm, and another one at like a vineyard kind of thing. It's like, for me, if I was doing the wedding, I'd be too worried to like do an outdoor wedding because like what happens if it rains? What happens if it's windy? So many natural problems. But I mean, in both those weddings, it was like perfect weather, like sun setting, a couple clouds in the sky. It was no wind, so it was like beautiful. But
yeah,
that must have been so stressful.
That's definitely the risk. It could either be spectacular or it could be a complete disaster. Let's see, the wedding that I went to that released the butterflies at the end, that was at a vineyard outdoor. And again, I live in the Bay Area. It's unpredictable. It's literally the start of summer here in the Bay Area, and it rained last night. Like, it's freezing cold here, and it rained last night. You just never know. So this one wedding I went to, I think it was in July, I want to say. So you would think July wedding outdoors, perfect. The sun not beaming on you, but good. Freezing cold. Like, all the bridesmaids up there were just like shivering the whole time. And actually funny, when they released the butterflies, some of them flew, and some of them were just so cold they just landed on the floor, and the bridal party almost stepped on them when they were leaving. And then there's another wedding we went down to in Malibu. Same thing. I think their anniversary was like last week. So again, start of summer in California. And it was like 50 degrees. And they said that, they did the rehearsal the day before. And it was like 90 degrees. And literally the next day, the clouds moved in, 50-degree wedding. We were all freezing our tails off because you think you travel to Malibu in the middle of summer, like you're not going to bring like a ski jacket or something. No, we needed our ski. It was freezing. And it showed. And I don't know. I forgot they brought out some heaters or something for us, but yeah, I wouldn't say we were miserable, but it was chilly for sure.
There's a line in a movie I was watching. They said, the longest winter I ever spent was a summer in San Francisco.
Yeah. And then we're the opposite.
Right.
Come October, it's going to be like 100 degrees here. So got to look up the old Farmer's Almanac and figure out when the hot days are. And again, it's completely unpredictable. We could have a monsoon October. We could have 100-degree October. You just never know. It's just whatever.
I didn't know it got that hot over where you are, Bay Area.
Yeah, I mean, like where I am, 90 will probably be the highest. So like where HQ is in San Jose, that can get to about 100. Get pretty hot down there.
Yeah, out here on the East Coast, it's like we're going through a heat wave right now. It's like 100 degrees right now.
Yeah, that's why our old boss Guy always made fun of me, because it'd be middle of summer. I'd be like this. I'd be in a hooded sweatshirt inside. Like, why are you cold? I'm like, it's 50 degrees out. All right, well, we continue to get great comments about our dad joke of the week.
Dad joke of the week.
This week, our guest co-hosts Rob and Jason are up, so I'll let Rob go first.
Ooh, I've got one. Let's see. So here's my dad joke of the week. So I went to a beekeeper and asked for 12 bees. He gave me 13. So I asked him why. Why did he give me an extra one? He says, that's a freebie.
Wah, wah. Baker's dozen. All right, Jason.
Just to clarify, did you say baker's dozen or beaker's dozen?
Beaker's dozen.
Okay.
Beekeeper's dozen.
So mine is topical, Chris, and I don't know if you know this or not. I just learned this. They don't have Walmarts in Iran. Do you know that? No Walmarts in Iran. Yeah, only Targets.
Wah, wah, wah. All right, to wrap things up, Iran is having a hard time, but the Cyberwar has so far been pretty light. Roblox snitches, and best of luck to Jeff and Lauren. That's all I have for this week. We hope you enjoyed this week's episode. Find us on LinkedIn. Links will be in the description. Follow us on Instagram at PEBCAK Podcast. Thank you to our listeners and subscribers. Rate us 5 stars in the iTunes Store and Spotify, and left us a review. We appreciate you all spreading the word to help grow the show. The best way to find us is search for the PEBCAK Podcast in your favorite podcast listening app. For our guest co-hosts Rob Chi and Jason Seaman, I'm Chris Louie. Thanks for listening. I'll see you all next week, and as always, have a nice day.
Have a nice day.
Our man just got us back. 30 of these. 30 of these. I'm going to the buy. Oh.